the Holua Slide. I'm at the lower end, the largest remaining Holua Slide in Hawaii. Right here behind me. So I'm gonna walk up to the top of the slide and give you a view from the top what it looks like. And the slide originally it was about a mile long, over 5,000 feet. I'm just blown away by the size of this slide. So if you look at the size of some of these rocks that these ancient Hawaiians dealt with when constructing this Holua Slide, you can see it goes all the way up, all the way down on both sides. And then you have to raise the bed up a few feet. I'm just blown away by the amount of rocks, of lava rocks that needed to be carried in here by hand. And also, like I said, the sheer size of these rocks. All for the purpose of sliding down this Holua Slide. The slides were mainly used during makahiki season, tribute to the god of fertility, the god of agriculture, Lono. So yes, this was a huge part in the makahiki games. So this sort of gives you an idea of how high this Holua Slide had to be built up in some portions in order to make this whole thing work out the way the Hawaiians wanted it to work out. And like I said, all of these rocks were carried here by hand. And once they built it up, they would have to fill up the inside. So as they would layer up and build up the height of this Holua Slide, they would take these smaller rocks and fill in the gaps to make it, to solidify the slide as they build it up, so that you don't have all those hollow spaces inside of the big rocks. So you have the big rocks, stack, 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 and they'll fill it up with smaller rocks, and then they would throw fine dirt and peeling grass on top. Now, it's easy to say, oh yeah, we'll stack the rocks and fill it up with little rocks, but then you take the sheer size of the slide, over a mile long. That's over 5,280 feet long, over 50 feet wide. Talking hundreds and hundreds of tons of rocks. Now the part that gets me is they had no trucks. They had no power tools. They had no hydraulics. They didn't have wheelbarrows. How did they carry all of these rocks in here? It was simple. No, it wasn't simple. By hand. That's what gets me, by hand. But I guess by the sheer numbers of Hawaiians, you know, anything can be accomplished, just about anything. So you probably had hundreds, if not thousands of Hawaiians building this particular Holua Slide. And then you take the heiaus, the massive heiaus that they have, like the one they have in Quai Hai, Pu'ukohola heiau, that King Kamehameha built for the Kukailimoku, the war god. Or the one in Hawaii, the very first heiau in Hawaii, Mo'okini. Now there's many heiaus throughout the state of Hawaii. And the thing that they all have in common, they're all built with rocks, they're all built by hand, and they're all built by Hawaiians. That's why these rocks are so sacred to a lot of Hawaiians to this very day. The mana that these rocks hold within themselves. The spirits of the ancient Hawaiians resides in each and every rock that was brought here by them. So the Holua Slide, and then Papa Holua, which is the sled itself. So the act of riding the sled down the hill was called He'e Holua. So He'e Holua was the act of riding down the Holua Slide with a Papa Holua. So these sleds that were used to slide down these Holua slides were called the Papa Holua. Now these Papa Holuas were about 14 feet long and they weighed about 50 pounds. They were attached in a center by cross pieces, almost like the yakus on an outrigger canoe, which connected the canoe to the outrigger. So these cross pieces were attached to each end of the Papa Holua. The Papa Holua was made out of native woods, probably kawila, mamani, or uhi uhi. Then they were attached with senet. Senet is coconut fibers. The Hawaiians weaved this coconut fibers into very strong and pliable, rigid rope. And then once the sled was completed, they used the kukui nut, the candle nut tree, the center, and they oiled down the Papa Holuas, make it nice and slick, so they could slide down these Holua slides. Would I do it? Probably, if it was covered with dirt and peely grass. But as it stands now, there's no way. No way, because it would be suicide. And the Hawaiians knew that. That's why they covered it with dirt, fine dirt at the very top, and then, like I said, peely grass. So as I stand here at the top of this Holua slide, I just think to myself, these Hawaiians are amazing. Pretty daring as well to create this amazing slide. And then to go down it, standing up on basically two pieces of wood lashed together that weighed over 50 pounds. Either stand on it or lay down on it head first, going 60 miles an hour down here. Wow. So these rocks, to some, it may seem like just rocks. What's the big deal? But to others, especially the Hawaiians, these rocks are more than just rocks. They tell a history of who we are as Hawaiians. All of these rocks that you see behind me, up there, behind me down there, all the heiaus, the shrines, the platforms, the foundations, they're all built with rocks. And the rocks, when they move from one point to another, they don't move by themselves. They're all carried by hand. Now, if you have thousands, hundreds of Hawaiians that touch each and every single rock, the mana within themselves is carried through and transported through these rocks. So these rocks represent more than just a rock on the ground. They represent the people, who we are, where we came from, how we lived. So that's why a lot of Hawaiians to this very day respect these rocks, they revere these rocks, and they are more than just rocks. They are who we are. Pa'a, steadfast, very strong. The Hawaiian race, the Hawaiian people, the Hawaiian culture, all embedded in these very rocks. I'm sure many of you already know that, but for those of you who don't know that, well, now you do. So from the top looking down, or from the bottom looking up, either way you look at it, it's amazing.